Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Tonight's a regular board meeting for the Lammersville Unified School District Board of Education. It's August 3rd, 2016. Call this meeting to order at 7:01. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, and if everyone at this time would please silence your cell phones, I would appreciate it. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Matthew Balzerini.
Here.
Colin Clements.
Here.
Sharon Lampel.
Here.
Shane Nielsen.
Absent.
David Pombo.
Here.
Samantha DeTiberis.
Here.
Approval and/or corrections to the agenda.
We have one. Consent item C4 is being pulled.
I'll move for approval of the agenda with item C4 pulled.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Lillian Wella was a longtime employee of the district. She retired from the district in 2007. She worked for the district for nearly 40 years, and last week, after a long illness, passed away. At this time, I'd like to have a moment of silence in her honor. Thank you. Committee reports. Facilities use. Mr. Pombo.
I don't believe we've had a facilities committee meeting since our last board meeting. If we did, I apologize. I did not prepare a report. Typically, Trustee Nielsen.
Very good. Okay. District Advisory Committee.
We haven't had a meeting since the last one, and I don't believe the next one is yet on the calendar.
Okay. Item C, District English Language Advisory Committee.
Like everyone else, it's summer, no report.
Thank you. Item D, Gate Arts Music, and there's no report for that. Item E, Grants Writing Committee.
No report.
Item F, Safety and Crisis Response, no report. And item G, Wellness.
I have no report other than our next meeting has been scheduled, and I apologize, I don't have that date handy, but I'm hoping that we have input from staff on recess and lunch period timing as far as the effect on student performance by our next meeting, so that we can begin discussing that in the Wellness Committee.
I can report that staff is pulling information as we speak.
Thank you.
Governing Board reports. Samantha DeTiberis.
I'm happy to say that this week I've been active with Link Crew, who put on freshman orientation earlier today. It ran very well, and the freshmen are excited to start at the high school. I was particularly impressed with how the freshmen were welcomed at the beginning by Mr. Faubert. He made a very clear point that the office is always open, or his office is always open to students, and I think that's one of the most important points that he could have made. That's it.
Thank you. Trustee Clements.
No report, sir.
Trustee Pombo.
I don't really have a report, although I'd like to chime in on President Balzerini's mention of Lillian Wella. She did work for the district for nearly 40 years, and I had the pleasure of knowing her for the majority of those 40 years. She was the heart and soul of Lammersville School, and she will be missed by generations of Lammersville Unified people. There is a memorial for her in Manteca on Saturday at 11, and then there will be a get-together at Lammersville School immediately after that. And I believe that's kind of an open house, open from noon or so until I think about 4. So if anybody can make it, that would be great.
So I've been communicating with the district about a company that does donations, and specifically that's Taylor Farms, and they donate the produce for our markets. What are they called?
Farmers Market.
Farmers Market. Thank you. There are allegations out in the public that Taylor Farms supports hate crimes against lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender employees by not stopping the harassment. Harassment goes on at Taylor Farms, and management does nothing to stop it. Management is not doing anything to cause that activity, but they're also not stopping it. By remaining silent and not disciplining employees who perform these hate activities, they're endorsing it. So I'm recommending to the district that we not do business, even though it's a donation, with Taylor Farms. We can find other funding for our farmers markets, but I think it's more important to show the youth of Mountain House that we support all of our children and don't do business with companies like that.
For the superintendent, can we bring that back as a discussion and or action item?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the report.
You're welcome.
For my report, just for the board, some time ago, we supported some legislation that CSB was trying to pass, SB 799, has to do with the reserve caps. And I just want to let everyone know that the committee, it was pushed back to the Education Committee, which is chaired by Assembly Member Patrick O'Donnell. And at this time, they're in discussion and they're getting some pushback. So they're asking for board members to reach out to some members of the committee to ask to support 799. So I'll forward you the email. CSB might have sent it to you already, but if not, I'll make sure you get it. Just there's 3 assembly members are asking for us to contact. And I've been in contact with all 3 of them today and let them know that we have a resolution that we support. In fact, I'm going to email it to them tomorrow and want to see if you guys can call for support.
Absolutely.
So, thank you. Receiving a public comment. I have 1 speaker card. Vicki Beckman. And I noted here on your card that it said that they were going to email me, but I did not receive an
It's
email.
okay. She just contacted me 20 minutes ago, so you probably didn't see it. So I came prepared just in case. So I am reading a comment on behalf of another parent at Wickland this evening who is in D.C. And she had sent her comments to Trustee Nielsen, who, as you know, was not able to make it. So here's her comment. I am unable to read this letter in person as I am in Washington, D.C. for a work meeting. I appreciate it being read on my behalf. As a very involved parent and last year's vice president of WSF at Wickland, I am aware and can appreciate the difficult decisions that sometimes need to be made about intra-district transfer students. 5 years ago, my family moved across the country and landed in Wickland. The move was very difficult on my 2 children, who were in 2nd and 4th grade at the time. Grace, being younger, had an easier time assimilating and began to thrive at Wickland. Unfortunately, after living here a year, my children were impacted by another major life change when my husband and I separated. As you can imagine, it was very difficult for all involved. It became even more difficult the following year when I needed to move out of Mountain House due to family restructuring. The one constant in Grace's life has been Wickland. She has thrived there. Of my 2 children, Grace has had to work harder for her grades. She has blown all of our expectations of her out of the water. Although I shouldn't be surprised, Grace has always been a fighter. She was my 30-week preemie, born 10 weeks premature. Because of her rough start, we were unsure of the challenges she would face. She has been given the tools to rise above her learning challenges here at Wickland and no longer receives any special support services and has several times made honor roll. She has been able to grow academically, emotionally, and socially. Wickland has truly nurtured the whole child. Wickland has afforded her the opportunity to become a good citizen, and she demonstrates these qualities at the school daily in her relationships with her peers, with her teachers, and as a member of ASB. She gives to Wickland in many ways as well. Her compassion as a friend and classmate, her school spirit, her positive attitude, her love of learning, her consistent contributions by always fundraising near the top of the pack, and her sportsmanship as a member of a national championship cheerleading team. She's a team player. She is accepting of all people as individuals, in the words of every teacher who has ever taught her, a pleasure to have in class. I understand difficult decisions need to be made, and as a master's degree teacher, I can appreciate the hardship of the decision to deny her an intra-district transfer. Grace's education is important to me. I have contributed greatly time-wise and financially, such as my last year's term as Vice President of WSF and continually donating photography services. I am respectfully asking the board to reconsider her placement by allowing her to continue thriving at Wickland. I fear a change of schools will be detrimental to her academic, emotional, and social well-being. I pledge to continue to support Wickland with man-hours and financial support as I have for the last 5 years she has attended. Thank you for considering my request. Respectfully, Jenny Tellers.
That was amazing.
I skipped one sentence. Sorry, Jenny.
Thank you for your comments. Consent items for consideration. Item A, approval of governing board meeting minutes from July 20th. Item B is approval of contracts under $25,000. There are 2. Item C, approval of the 2016-17 hires. There are 10. Item D, acceptance of resignations. There are 3. Item E, approval of updated 2016-17 fundraisers. And item F, acceptance of a donation, $672.67 for a bench in memory of Sue Graves at Lammersville School from David Pombo. We can remove any of these items for discussion, or we can approve them all at once.
Move to approve.
I was going to pull number 1.
Which?
C1. Because I wanted to.
Well, we were going to discuss that, but
There's actually a couple of them.
Irene, could you please stand, and so we can welcome you to the ranks of principal in Lammersville.
And while we're welcoming Nancy Matthews,
Nancy, welcome.
Nancy's going to be our new assistant principal at Wickland. And is Corinne here? Please stand. Corinne Pacheco is going to be our new principal, our assistant principal at Altamont. Corinne's not on the list tonight, but paperwork was slow getting through, so she'll be coming on the next agenda, but I want to make sure we welcomed her tonight.
Welcome to all of you, and thank you for everything that you're going to do for our students this year. So I wasn't really pulling it, I just wanted to make a big deal.
so I did want to make a comment. I did want to make a comment to or for Irene to say that it's been an honor to have you in DLAC. Thank you for, working with me and teaching me over the course of the last couple of years. I've really come to appreciate your insights in education in general, and I'm very happy for you and your promotion, even though that means I probably won't see you on DLAC.
Isn't she going to be running DLAC?
Oh, awesome. Yes. That's even better for me.
Yeah, Lammersville, yeah.
So I rudely interrupted you. You can continue now.
Move to approve consent items for consideration as amended.
Second.
First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with 1 absent.
So real quick, I was going to say something about whenever you, yeah? Okay. So if we could have Corinne stand up. Corinne is an administrator who came to us from a progressive thinking, forward thinking, a very similar community school, Mary Hill School. She was leading an initiative to go 1-to-1. Believes in all the things that we believe in here about its kids, its community, its building culture. We're very lucky to have her here, and she's a very thoughtful, intelligent, and kind person. So welcome aboard. And Nancy Matthews, stand on up. Nancy is very thoughtful and wise, and she's been a classroom teacher here, and many kids have benefited from her. But if you sit with her in an adult meeting, she has a great way of expressing herself with determination, conviction, and thoughtfulness. She can make her points very clearly, but she always lets everybody feel as if they are important, that every idea is welcome. And going into Wickland with the great run they're going to make this year, she's a perfect addition to that team over there.
And I appreciate all the hard work you've done with curriculum. Don't think it's gone unnoticed. So we've started kind of a new tradition here. Trustee Lampel works in HR and education, so we leave it to her to introduce all of our new hired teachers.
So I'd like to welcome Irene Busatil as principal, Elizabeth Clausen as social studies teacher, Kelly Earlwine, self-contained classroom teacher, Jeffrey Hemming, art teacher, Monica Martinez, self-contained classroom teacher, Nancy Matthews, vice principal, Lisa Rio, administrative secretary, Guadalupe Rojas, school secretary 1, Rebecca Scotland, self-contained classroom teacher, and Nicole Whitman, biology teacher. Welcome to the Lammersville family.
Thank you for that. District Administrative Reports, item 8, Superintendent's Report.
I have 4 small, short presentations, but they all encapsulated under the concept of summer school. Our district commits to our kids at the K-8 level, at the 9-12 level, at the intermediate level, where kids are trying to improve their math skills and get prepared for advanced math programs, and for our special education students. So if I could have all the folks that are presenting their outcomes come on up, it's time.
Good evening, Governing Board, Mr. President, and Dr. Nicholas. It's our pleasure to share with you what we have been doing during summertime, along with everything else, which is really great for our kids, because this is something we did not do in the past years. Last year, the first year, we actually started summer school program. This year, we were able to provide summer school classes to all the grade levels, which is from K through 12. So at kindergarten through 8th grade, we offered the program at Lammersville School by using mostly Title I funding, but the students were invited from all of the schools, mostly English language learners and low-income students. And at the high school, students were invited who needed just academic help. And then we had ESY Extended Year Program for students with disabilities, and Math Bridge Program as an intervention and enrichment for 6th through 9th grade or 8th grade students, depending on where they are, mainly Math 1 students. Mr. Seamus actually is the one who ran the program, facilitated the program at Lammersville School, so I'm presenting on his behalf. He did an excellent job. We're going to miss him dearly. We started that program with about 136 students and ended with about 92 on the last day. But most of the days, we had above 100 students in the classrooms. They were represented from all of the K-8 schools. And for the K-6 students, we used our adopted curriculum, which is benchmark, and 7-8 mostly online resources and so on. The beauty of this program was it was science focused. So the students started their day with a lab, with some kind of inquiry lesson in the lab. Really got them engaged right in the beginning, and then they learned the ELA, reading, writing, math portions through the science activities. And so they were engaged through those essential questions, and that's how the learning objectives went for the lessons. It was really amazing to see how engaged the students were. So our goal was with the K-8 program to help students reach their math, reading, and ELA. We're going to find out through MAP scores and CASP scores if it made a difference or not, and then also provide them the rigorous opportunities to prepare them for next grade level, and then academics, language skills for the EL students, and over just to provide this fun learning experience. These are some of the pictures from the program. You know, they were doing hands-on math activities, art activities, science activities on a daily basis. Technology was being in the classrooms on a daily basis as well, and we even had 4 assemblies, STEAM-based assemblies actually within 4 weeks that were related to either plants or magnets or electricity, engineering, many different pieces. And then we ended the program by hosting an open house, and believe it or not, we had approximately 100 families, 100 people attend the open house. It was really amazing to see that. And now Mr. Sharma is going to just talk about the high school summer school program.
Not a pro at this like Ben is.
Yeah, Ben makes it look easy.
Your left hand, and you got to reach in a little bit. I learned that after 3 years.
There we go. All right. Good evening, Dr. Nicholas, members of the board. I'm going to share the highlights of the summer school program at the high school. 6-week program started June 6th and ran through July 14th. It was 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, and this was for students who needed credit recovery. So it's our main credit recovery vehicle. Students who had D's or S were eligible to enroll in those courses. Of course, UC CSU requirements demand that they have a C or a better in all the core courses in order to remain eligible. Then for basic high school graduation requirements, you need a D or a better in all of your core courses to remain eligible. So for any students who were in a situation where they had to recover credits, this was open to them. There was 2 different formats that the courses were offered in. Majority of our courses in science, social studies, and English were offered in a blended learning online format where it was mostly self-paced. So there was meetings once a week with the teacher. The science courses in particular had labs. That was part of the UC requirements, that there's actual wet labs, so students participating in those. Then the math courses, the format was a little bit different. It was face-to-face, 4 days a week, 2 hours a day for the students who were enrolled in those courses. So at the beginning of the summer, we identified 152 students through our counseling department and sent letters out to those students who were in need of credit recovery. 190 students wound up enrolling and were there in the first week, and 165 of those students went on to complete summer school and earn at least 1 semester of credit during the program. We had some built-in supports for those students. 49 of our students volunteered to be peer tutors during that time. So we had a peer tutoring center set up 4 hours a day for the duration of summer school, where students worked in shifts to help out their peers. And the subject area breakdown here. Overall, the students enrolled in summer school, they were enrolled in 265 semesters that they attempted. At the end, 210 of those semesters wound up being successful for an overall success rate of 80%. So you can see the highlights there. Math, 93% completion rate for earning credit. Social studies, 95. Then science and English were a little bit lower. But overall, 80% for the recovery rate for those students who are enrolled in the program. And I'll hand it off to Mr. Gervas.
Hello, board members and Dr. Nicholas. I was involved with our summer math bridge program this summer. Just to give you a little background, a reminder of what we were doing. We have a big transition this year to a new accelerated math program, that's starting in 6th grade now. We have a 6th, 7th accelerated math program, a 7, 8 accelerated math program, and then we'll have 8th graders will be taking Math 1 at the high school this year. So part of that transition, because there were some holes in where the students would be transferring from place to place, we designed a summer bridge program for students to take part in to help alleviate some of those holes, and it's not only fill in some of the content that they had not gotten in class and will not get in the class that they're about to take, but also to help fill in some of the holes or gaps in perhaps previous classes they've taken. So we were able to put this program together, and we had 283 people register for this program. So the registrations went out to students that were known enrollees in our accelerated math program, and this is suggested as a very strong suggestion that they take part in the program. That will not bear any credit for them or demote them from any credit, but we tried to articulate to the parents the importance of students that are taking these classes to perhaps make sure that they're filled in what they're doing. One great part about this program is even though you can see the numbers up there, we had 283 that registered, and you can see the breakdown on how on who actually enrolled in which classes. I would say we have about half of those students that have actually completed the courses, and so, and even though that might sound like it's a small amount, we still have an excellent opportunity for the students to continue to work on these summer bridge programs, if you will, during the school year, concurrent with what they're doing. We have a lot of great information on the back end about how their success rate or not success with the class over the summer is great, and this is information that we can easily pass on to the teachers, and we got this through our Illuminate system. The courses were built using a lot of the tools that we already have. A lot of the courses were based around our new Engage in New York math program that we're using as a base for our current program. LearnZillion, which is one of my favorite sites on the web right now that actually offers fully developed courses online, not necessarily just a video click here or a web page there, but actually fully developed courses that some schools are actually using to actually run their entire high school math program. And then Guru, which is kind of the paste that put everything together. So a lot of these tools are all things. All of them are free. These were all things, and so our cost was $0 for this program for the summer. So we're able to offer these things, I think, at a great benefit for the district. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, you want to help her out with the thing?
I'm on tippy toe.
Yeah.
I know. I still wouldn't reach. Good evening, board, Dr. Nicholas. Okay, so unlike the general education summer school programs, extended school year for students with disabilities is a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and explain just what is extended school year, and we tend to confuse it with summer school. So there are certain guidelines that students with disabilities need to meet in order to be eligible for that. Extended school year is just to merge skills and breakthrough opportunities. If there's behaviors that are impacting, then we need to continue certain strategies. So through those 20 days of extended school year, those students are practicing on current goals. Here is no pass or fail. They don't get a grade. Everything's based off of their IEP goals. So to prevent any regression after the summer break, students are offered during each IEP meeting throughout the entire year, they're offered extended school year, and the team discusses eligibility criteria. So extended school year is not to introduce any new skills, to reteach a skill that has already been met and the student has learned that skill. It is not to continue the same program from the school year. And for every student, it is different. Just because the student has an IEP, that doesn't mean that automatically they would qualify for extended school year. So there are certain criteria that a student needs to meet. So based on this year, our numbers throughout the school year, starting in September, we start holding IEP meetings depending on IEP deadlines. Our ESY, we had approximately 52 students eligible for ESY. As the year progressed and teams met, students ended up meeting goals and not showing any regression. So therefore, at the end of May, there were 25 students that were eligible for ESY. We had two classes. We had a K-4 class, and the K-4 class targeted the reading, and these are some of the programs that they worked on, that they used: reading A through C, the touch math, they worked on social skills, occupational therapy was offered, speech and language, and out of those, in this K-4, we had 12 students, and 66% of those 12 students we had a total were present. The other program, the other class was grades 5 through 10. So we did have small classes. There were 9 students in this class. We had, they worked in whole group, small group. They worked in centers targeting their current IEP goals, had sensory activities. They also received social skills activities with the speech therapist, and 75% of the 9 students were present. In the K-4 program, 2 of the 9 students made progress on their math goals. 3 out of the 9 students made behavioral progress in taking turns, and that's working on their social skills. It might not seem a lot, but when a child cannot take turns and takes off, and eventually at the end of the 20 days, they're able to wait for their turn, it's a big step. In the 5-10 program, 8 out of 9 students met their reading goal, and they were working also on their Chromebooks and using reading A through Z, and 6 out of the 9 students met their math goal. That concludes my presentation.
Julie, are we going to do anything to monitor the progress into the year and see if it made a difference?
So what happens is that, yes, to answer your question, yes. So when teachers start, they have a baseline at each goal. So in order to indicate to parents, yes, your child has met this goal, they have to collect data. And then once they meet, they determine from the baseline, let's say, for example, student A knows 5 letters out of the 26 letters of the alphabet. By the time of the IEP, the data shows that he has mastered 20 letters. So that's how they monitor progress.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank
A
you.
quick question for Brian.
Yep.
How did you get more students enrolled than invitation letters went out?
That's a good question.
Terry voting?
I think the letters went out as a priority to those students who were at risk for graduation requirements, and some of the students who also needed that additional work for UC eligibility. Those came in as that group, in addition to the 152 that went out.
So students came in, parents, and asked to enroll in summer school when they had not been invited.
Right,
This is an amazing community.
right. So it was advertised, they had the option, they
Yeah.
decided to do it. So
That's great. Thank you.
I apologize. Since we did them all back to back, I actually had questions and comments on the high school. Can we put up the high school summer school slideshow? Specifically, the slide on that had the subject matter started and finished. Keep going. That one. So math, if I'm reading that correctly, out of 265, 58 of them were math, 98 were science, 40 was social studies, and 69 in English, which means math was the second lowest.
right.
Okay? And that's roughly proportional to need, right? Okay. And then 54 of the 58, which is 93%, actually completed the program. And the reason that I'm speaking of this, the reason that I wanted to touch on this is, unfortunately, I had made a comment that on the dais that my son was challenged in math. And he was, and he is, and he was actually a summer school attendee for both summers. And a candidate has said that means that I'm admitting that publicly on Facebook that I'm admitting that there is a problem in the math department. And I am here to say formally and officially that my son's problems in math, and this is not representative of all students, but I can tell you, I know what my son's problems are. And when you don't try to do your homework until the night before the exam, you are going to have problems in math. And I'm not throwing my son under the bus. I mean, he climbed under the bus and he sat there and waited. So, what I'm saying is, okay, math, the need out, yes, we had some challenges in math the very first year. We all knew that. We worked on it. You guys worked on it. I did. It's the royal we, right? And I just want to acknowledge that math has come a long way and that 54 out of 58 completed it, my son being one. And yes, he got a C instead of a B. Why? Because he sat there and tried to get a B minus and ended up, not surprisingly, with a C plus. It's not rocket science. So anyway, I just wanted to thank the math department for everyone in the high school, but specifically I wanted to speak to math because a comment that I'd made about my son was used as a political tool completely out of context. So thank you very much.
And if I may piggyback on this chart, these are amazing numbers. They really are, to have this many students complete semesters, and students needing this summer work is not a reflection of a weak program or weak teachers. Kids learn at different paces, as all of us educators know. And sometimes I was that math kid, okay? I wasn't doing it the night before. I was just not understanding it.
I did. My son is my son.
This is incredible, and just showing that there were some families who sent their kids to summer school who were not told, you need summer school. They said, I want summer school. I want to improve my grades. So these are incredible numbers, and kudos to all of the teachers that were in the program and the administration and the design. And you know what? More kudos to the kids who did all the work. This is amazing, 80%. I've never seen this in my career.
Yes, thank you.
And I would just like to say that I think that these numbers prove that we in Lammersville Unified and specifically at Mountain House High School are doing something right.
Thank you.
A lot of some things actually, but.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Did you have a question for anyone else? No, I'm okay. Thank you very much.
Mr.
Appreciate
President, if I could just speak real quick. It also needs to be noted that summer schools are a choice by this school board. It's an investment in our kids and for our families. And not every district makes that commitment. I asked the team to make this presentation so we can talk about results. We still learn. We have lots of work to do with math. We are still figuring out some things at K-8, but those numbers are good. But it's a commitment of investing funds to what we commit our priorities to, that this board is committed to, and those kids that are benefiting are because of the desire to spend money where the kids need it. So that needs to be noted as well.
I'd like to make something blatantly obvious that you just pointed out. We don't get extra summer school funds from the state like when we were kids. When I started in education, there were extra funds for summer school. So this board is making a commitment to allocate that amount of money to meet our students' needs.
And Mr. Clements, when my 16-year-old son climbs under the bus, I call it, he's becoming Mr. Smooth.
You stole my thunder. But I also wanted to say, along with that, let us not forget it's only been a few years since legislature took this curriculum and put it upside down for us. And as a superintendent constantly says, trying to build a plane while fly it, we're still doing that. It hasn't been that long, and curriculum's still being introduced. So I think we're ahead of the curve. And for my, every time I'm in Sacramento, it sure seems like we're doing it right. So much appreciated. Thank you. Item B, District Maintenance and Operations Report. Mr. LeGrand.
The tie is back.
I'd like to note for the record my tie is back on. Just thank you. Thank you for noticing. I don't have a number, a lot of new stuff from the last board report. School starts a week from tomorrow. We're wrapping up a number of projects. We have some painting to do, some concrete, sheetrock, striping, that kind of stuff. I met with a landscaping company on Monday. I walked 3 or 4 sites with them, told them what I was looking for. In the next week and a half, a little more detailed work at some of the school sites, some edging, some weed pulling, that kind of stuff. We have a little bit of enhancement we're going to do with grounds enhancement we're going to do at Cuesta. That's going to start tomorrow. Some bark, a couple plants out front, spruced up a little bit. And again, I just want to thank, pictures are up. Thank you. How'd you get that picture? Anyways, so we're working on the floors at the high school. Both gyms are done. We're working on the concrete floors now. You see in front of you the picture of that's the multipurpose room. They turned out beautiful. They weren't done last summer for whatever reason, but they look like ice skating rink. They're beautiful. We finished the C wing yesterday. We're starting on the A wing upstairs tonight. We'll finish A wing downstairs tomorrow, and then we only have the gym on Friday night, the gym area. So then they'll be done. And like I said, both gyms are done. So good to get those off. That's upstairs at the C wing. So as you can see, they look really nice. There's 4 coats of wax on each floor. So,
Mr. LeGrand, I think you should share with them how much you saved the district by doing this job in-house.
So Alvina's the big numbers person, right? So the quote to get the work done was in the neighborhood of $47,000 to $48,000, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
And we're not going to spend 10. So, so significant savings to the district by doing it ourselves. That's just for the concrete floors. I don't remember what the district spent last year on the gym floors, but we did those in-house as well, so we saved that money as well this year. I'll get some numbers, and I could give it to you at a later date, but the more in-house stuff we do, the better we are financially wise, so fiscally wise, which makes Alvina happy. So, again, I want to thank all the custodial staff, maintenance staff. We're ready for school. Schools are clean, schools are safe, and we're ready for the kids to show up next Thursday. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Kudos to you and your staff. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a point to everyone that you're not singing yourself enough kudos. All of those summer programs that we just heard about, Mr. LeGrand's team is cleaning around them and still getting things done. So thank you very much. This is very impressive.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm going to go back to work, so thank you. See you guys.
Thank you. Action items. Item A, consider approval of 2016-17 inter-district transfer requests. Any staff report?
None.
Move to approve the 2016-17 inter-district transfer requests.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item B, consider approval of Lammersville Unified School District and California School Employee Association, Chapter 873, Agreement Language Change, Article 6.7, Longevity Pay, pending CSEA ratification. Staff report?
This is the final piece to our negotiations with CSEA. I want to thank Christy Kelly and Erica Payne-Smith for their very professional efforts in coming to an agreement, and this is the final step to moving forward for them.
I have one little question on the longevity. Is that foreseen, those calculations that we saw, and you qualify at this point and not that point, does that have any effect on seniority, or was it only to calculate how the longevity stipends are paid?
Stipends.
Thank you.
Move to approve Lammersville Unified School District and California School Employee Association, Chapter number 873, Agreement Language Change, Article 6.7, Longevity Pay, pending CSEA ratification.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item C, consider approval of public disclosure form AB 1200 for unrepresented, certificated, and classified confidential management groups and California School Employee Association, Chapter 873, pending CSEA ratification. Staff report?
So for unrepresented groups, this is the same process and step through an expectation through the AB 1200 rules.
Any board discussion?
I'll move for approval of the public disclosure form, AB 1200, for unrepresented, certificated, and classified confidential management groups and California School Employees Association, Chapter 873, pending CSEA ratification.
Second.
Sorry, who's the second?
Colin.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item D, consider approval of Department of State Architecture Inspector for Mountain House High School construction projects. Don Williams Inspection Incorporated. Estimate costs $453,333. Staff report.
This is part of the staging process to prepare to do big projects, and this is a requirement by law. DSA is the oversight and the overruler of all projects. So you have to have these inspectors. Don worked on the first part of the project.
Board discussion.
Does that have to go out to bid, or we're just allowed to hire them? I don't know. Not required? Thank you.
And we've used Don Williams before. He's been very good in the past.
Correct.
Yeah, I just didn't see anything about the bidding, that's why I asked. But if it's not required, that's good.
And is this actually part of the same project? Is that
Correct.
what? Yeah, could you come up? Oh, sorry. So,
Wes King.
I mean, as far as the high school, it's considered just another phase of the same project, right?
Correct, yeah. It's a continuation of the high school,
So we wouldn't have to worry about bid process anyway.
correct.
Very good. Thank you. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to thank district staff for answering. I had a few questions on this item, and the long and the short of it is that when you add up the numbers and the hours and the dollars per hour, it doesn't make sense until you consider, or it may not make sense to somebody who's reading the packet on a standalone basis until you consider the fact that some overtime is going to be, the bid includes a certain component of it being overtime, which now that I think about it, some of it is going to be overtime because the constructors and therefore the inspectors are going to have to be working around an operating school rather than just a blank site that they get to work Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 or whatever. And so the numbers make a lot more sense when you factor that in mentally, but it's not readily apparent when you just read the docs.
You mean we don't want big noisy machines during school hours?
Some of that.
Well, we could do that. we could do that, and then we could have an army of parents, at the door.
There will be noise.
There will be some, I know.
Be honest.
Move to approve testing inspection fees for Mountain House High School, Move to approve Department of State Architect Inspector for Mountain House High School construction projects, Don Williams Inspection, Inc., estimated cost $453,333.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item E, consider approval of testing and inspection fees for Mountain House High School construction phase increment 3 with Wallace Cool and Associates, not to exceed $486,398. Staff report.
This is the same process. This is this inspector does everything from earthwork to structural steel and everything in between. So our Mr. King can go detail.
The usual question is, didn't we just approve an inspector already? If you see inspection in there twice. So there's certain parts that the DSA inspector is allowed to do by code, and there's certain parts that a third party has to be the inspector in order to protect the interest of the district and therefore the state. And so the code requires certain things to be done. So this is the second part of that inspection process.
And is this another one that doesn't need to go out to bid?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any board discussion?
I just want to say that seems like an awful lot of money for inspectors, but I realize that it's all required by the state that we have all these inspections done, and that's that. And with that, I will move to approve the testing and inspection fees for Mountain House High School construction phase increment 3 with Wallace Cool and Associates not to exceed $486,398.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item F, consider approval of provisional internship permits for certificated employees. Number one is David Hall, multiple subject credential, self-contained 7th grade teacher at Bethany. And number 2 is Kristen Glover, multiple subject credential, self-contained transitional kindergarten teacher at Cuesta. Staff report.
This is our annual fill in the last spots. These are PIPs. We do it every year.
And there is still a teacher shortage in California.
Getting bigger.
I wanted to make a comment on this, that when you just read the documentation showing all first I wanted to thank district staff for being so responsive, because I had a question, because when you read all of the positions that we have posted, which is in the documentation for the board packet, and you compare it to the conversation that we had in the last board meeting where we have like a handful of certificated positions to fill, it doesn't seem to make sense. But district staff explained that we have to prove that we've been looking in order to do this, and that we truly have a handful to fill, not all of these positions that we're listing. So I just wanted to make that clear.
The California education system is wrought with rules and regulations that we follow, some of which don't make sense.
And all of that documentation that Trustee Clements is talking about has to be submitted to the county when
When you apply for
when
them.
this credential is applied for.
Right.
So preparing it for the board, they have to show board approval, they have to show the history of looking for teachers. Now, they may have interviewed teachers that, at some of these events, that they decided were not a fit for our schools and were not prepared to teach our students. And that's a decision that our staff gets to make.
And with that, I'd like to acknowledge the hard work that HR has done with reaching out with the outreach to try and recruit all these teachers. I know it's been a difficult process, and it's been a lot of work, so thank you for all the effort.
I would echo that. Thank you very much. Move to approve provisional internship permits for certificated employees David Hall and Kristen Glover.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item G, consider approval of special education support services contracts with outside agencies. Number 1, ProCare Therapy, $72,540. Number 2, Sierra Vista School, $25,200. Number 3, North Valley School, $110,620. And number 4, Therapeutic Pathways, $60,145.34. Staff report.
This is similar to what we did 2 weeks ago at the last board meeting. These are necessary services that we don't have staff or the means to supply, so we do it through this means.
Quick question, are these all outside services that come into our schools, or are any of these NPSs?
I'll have Mrs. Corona answer that question from the dais
We have two.
in the microphone.
I am loud. We have two that are NPSs. North Valley School is NPS/residential, and Sierra Vista School is an NPS. And the other are more services that do come into our schools.
Thank you. I'll move for approval of special education support services contracts with outside agencies. ProCare Therapy at $72,540. Sierra Vista School at $25,200. North Valley School at $110,620. And Therapeutic Pathways at $60,145. And where did they get 34 cents? Okay.
Round up.
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Information discussion items, item A, Capital Public Finance Group Analysis of the LUSD proposed 2016 Leased Revenue Note Insurance.
Before Mr. Small begins his presentation, I'm going to make a brief, do an update that kind of sets up what he's going to be doing. So I'm going to step. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President, board members, Madam Student Trustee. It's my pleasure tonight to talk a little bit about where we're at. President Balzerini talked about flying a plane while building it. Well, we've been doing that for quite some time now, and with the passage of Measure L and looking at building a new school in Village C, which is now Hanson, we are literally preparing to build the plane with real stuff, which is why I'm going to make the presentation and give a short update to explain some of the things that are going on. Over the past couple of weeks, a lot of things that have been in motion are going to start settling into place. One of those I will speak to in a moment. We haven't been able to speak publicly about because of the requirements and restrictions when you get into a legal dispute over a contract. I'm going to divulge some information tonight because I can, but it's important to keep moving forward information as we go. So first and foremost, Measure L passed with a 62.07% passage rate within 1 percentage point of where it polled. What that did was allow us to move forward a set of projects tied to a resolution passed by the board. In that resolution was a project list. Measure L funds will go to things listed on that resolution project list, and it's important to note that some of those things were specific and some of those things were general on purpose. When you roll out a series of bonds and you gather money in an era of change where technology is taking over the world, you can't be so finite where you pigeonhole yourself into projects that may be obsolete. At the same time, our district and our community knows and has known for quite some time the needs of our district, the high school being a priority. So in that resolution list, which is there's a link that's attached to a presentation I'm going to give in a little bit, that's what's going on. So in order to do a resolution, you have to do a bunch of, jump through a bunch of hoops. And in doing so, because the district's small, we hire lawyers and professional consultants to advise us in what we can and can't do, who do this work all the time. And in the advisory process and putting together the resolution, something was put on there that a well-intended, highly regarded professional missed. And that is what created the contract language dispute with Trimark. There are multiple agreements where Trimark is impacted in terms of their influence historically in the district, primarily the Second Amendment. So when they brought that to our attention, we began a negotiation process. The conflict is essentially about the concept of an undeveloped property versus a developed property. Developed property has something on there and we inhabit it. An undeveloped property does not. There is language in the Second Amendment which contradicts language in the Third Amendment, which has to do with CalPERS's agreement. But nonetheless, it's in there. And the resolution, by putting that item on there, created the conflict. The district, and I want to compliment in particular the board members who, every board member has fought and stood forward for the district's interests and our children's interests, but we had 3 board members who attended meetings with Trimark's principal, and its Sun Chaser Holdings is the mother company. President Balzerini, Trustee Pombo, and Trustee Nielsen, all trying to get to a yes. I mean, that was our first meeting. We talked about, well, how are we going to get to yes? Nobody wants this not to happen. What is the deal that we have to make in order to make it work? So Trimark brought forward an agreement that it was tied to 2 things, and I'm going to make this very simple. They're going to agree to pay a tax, and they're going to not pay a fee, a quid pro quo. The impact of not paying that fee has nothing to do with the district. It has to do with CalPERS. So if you think about the original agreement that went forward, that was talked about in the paper, it was always about the district is kind of working out in between 2 big multi-billion-dollar corporations, Sun Chaser Holdings and CalPERS. So we've played a proxy role, acknowledging that the resolution was the start of the conversation between the interests of the Second Amendment and the interests of the Third Amendment in the name of the students of our district. And so the quid pro quo required that CalPERS understand what the agreement was, the fee thing, and the fee forgiveness, and what that would require is they would have to understand and work with the district to come up with how we were going to get through all of it. So long story short, late this afternoon, in a conversation with a advisor to CalPERS representing IHP, who represents Mountain House developers in a very complicated hierarchical structure that CalPERS is, we were able to come to consensus on what we were going to do. So, in a very simple statement, the fee issue impacts CalPERS's reimbursement for the money they loaned the district to build Mountain House High School Phase 1 and Phase 2. There's no impact financially on the district for that, but it impacts the reimbursement. In order for that reimbursement to be impactful, Trimark would have to develop its undeveloped properties, which is primarily commercial. When they develop commercial, and we're hearing 15, 20 years out, maybe 10, who knows, the economy's doing some interesting stuff right now, then there would be an impact on CalPERS, their reimbursement. It would slow it down. A developer fee is a loan. The reimbursement pays back the loan. So that's what we've been talking about. It seems intriguing when people say lawsuit, but really in the end, it was a contract violation inspired by a well-intended, highly regarded professional missing something, a district with the passion to complete an amazing 21st century high school, and a series of meetings in which our board, our district, fought for the interests of getting things done. So, because of the conversation this afternoon, I am actually freed up to speak a little bit more publicly to that issue. So that is an update, board members, Mr. President, Madam Trustee, on that situation. Yes, it's been an interesting experience. Now, the gentleman behind me, Mr. Small, is going to talk about a bridge loan. There are 2 reasons why we're getting a bridge loan. The first and foremost part, and I'll take responsibility for this, we probably could have communicated the permit timelines issue a little bit better. We said it, but we didn't say it loud enough, and now in retrospect, in hindsight, I'm going to speak it very clearly. In order to build the buildings based on the plans that were designed in 2012, we had a timeline. Very similar to the same requirements that were put on the district when it unified that we had 5 years to host a 9-12 program. That's why we had a 47-kid senior class. Not because we forced kids to give up their high school experience, but we had to. That was the rule, the state regulation. And all 47 of them graduated, by the way. But in a similar vein, the design that was drawn up and approved by DSA had to be kept in motion to keep alive by June of this year. Well, June of this year was when we were running a bond election, and there was no way to do it both at the same time. So with the help of Mr. King and NMR, our architectural firm, we made an agreement with DSA, who could have said no, and created a delay and a cost increase. We were able to move out the project into this September to keep the permits alive. That is why we did work at the tennis courts primarily, is to keep the permits alive. Dirt was scraped, a hole was dug, lime was poured, water was poured on top of it, and that satisfied the DSA. We then added gravel to maintain the purity of the lime, kept DSA happy. But now I'm happy to report that we have secured a bridge loan, which the district has done successfully in the past, to bridge the gap of the permit deadline. And while we needed time to resolve the conflict over language, which I can report today, not completely done, but in earnest, the agreement has been verbally worked out. So what that means is in a very short period of time, all of this will go away very quickly, including our friends from Trimark have once signed, which will probably be tomorrow, 5 days to remove the suit, of which they filed but never followed through on any of the steps. So full circle, we're going to meet our timeline permit issue. We've resolved the conflict of language with Trimark. We've resolved the reimbursement issue with CalPERS, but with work to do to finalize language. And Mr. Small is going to explain what the bridge loan process is so we can meet our deadline and break ground. And I can proudly announce, now that I'm done, that the effort with Measure L and the support of this community, we will be finishing our high school. And we will be breaking ground in a few weeks, first week of September. Big tractors, the last week of August. So we did it. Bumps, yes. Learning, yes. Oopses, yes. But nobody can say that this district doesn't deliver for its kids and its community because those buildings are getting built. Thank you.
Mr. Small, before your presentation, I just want to acknowledge a couple things. When this board hired Dr. Nicholas, he had strict orders to come in and work on curriculum. Curriculum was changing in the state. His mission, his goal was to work on curriculum. He's learned more about construction and projects and mitigation agreements than we ever could have hoped for. So thank you very much for, it's a huge learning curve. You've worked through it, and I know how much time and effort it's taken you, so thank you very much. I also want to just kind of reiterate something that's been said a few times tonight, state mandates. As education, we're overseen by the state, so they give us many, many, many mandates. And when it comes to educational pieces, a lot of those mandates aren't funded. And this board has been active, myself specifically, with CSBA and fighting the state, especially when it comes to these unfunded state mandates. So this board doesn't have all the power to do whatever we want, whenever we want. A lot of this stuff is driven by the state, and we have to follow the direction that's given by them. So I want to make sure that everyone's clear on that. So thank you. Please.
I have one comment, if I may, and that's to echo something there, to expound upon something that Dr. Nicholas said, which is the work that was done on the tennis courts, because it was somewhat commented on, and it is very common in construction and development to keep your permits alive by doing small things that require inspections to keep them perfected, keep them alive. And we could have done the most. We could have started on the pool, but that would have risked. If we didn't get the bond, if the bond didn't pass, we would have had to pay for that work. So the district recommended that we take the smallest bite of development work to keep the permits alive, and that's what that's what was done. And we could have done something much more expensive and risked more of the district's money, but we were saving what the estimate was like 15%. If those permits expired and we had to get new permits, that would have required new design. It would have increased the cost for the high school by 15%. So it was a very strategic, very smart move by the district to do that, to take the smallest bite possible and keep those permits in force. And it's just something we couldn't talk about because while it's very common in construction, it's also not something that you want to advertise and underline and put in bold and highlight until after you get beyond the point of no return, which is where we are right now. So thank you very much for standing with us and dealing and just basically stomaching the public comment on those because we weren't able to respond, but we had a very good reason for doing what we did.
I would just like to echo something that President Balzerini said, and that is to offer a huge thank you to Dr. Nicholas and staff for the Herculean effort that has gone into getting all this stuff sorted out, figured out, handled, dealt with. It's been monumentous, the effort that's been put into this, and I, for one, am extremely grateful.
And at the same time, delivering a top-notch education to our students.
I will echo something that I said before, is how frustrated I am. If I would have understood how complicated this community is, I never would have moved here. This school district has a mitigation agreement that was written in the 90s that we're still being enforced today on rules that no one could have ever thought of that benefits the developer in every way. And the school district, who our job is supposed to be educating kids, is stuck dealing with construction projects and state mandates and forms and red tape and all this stuff. We need to get these construction projects done so we can get back to teaching kids. I don't know how else to say it. I keep telling the developers, your job is to develop. It's in the name. That's what you're supposed to do. So I'm frustrated, and we've worked hard through this, and you've done a great job, Dr. Nicholas. Thank you. Thank you.
And I told Dr. Nicholas, I used to want to be a superintendent. Watching him go through all of this, not anymore.
So, sorry. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nicholas, members of the board, President Balzerini. Jeff Small, Capital Public Finance Group. We serve as the financial fiduciary to the district. We reviewed the temporary bridge financing that will be repaid from general obligation bonds, submitted a report. It's in your packet. It's been reviewed very carefully by the County Office of Education, and there is a letter in your packet essentially concurring with our findings and recommendations. So we're very pleased that you're almost done. We will be returning on August 17th, where the board will be asked to actually approve the legal documents that represent the interim financing. This presentation today just lets you know what it is you're going to be approving and why it makes sense and where those risks might be and what recommendations we may have. Because the information is contained in your report, I won't spend a lot of time going through the details, but if you do have questions in particular, happy to respond to them. I want to jump to I think many of the issues, the need for the financing, has been covered. Basically, you've got a $36.5 million project. You're in the stage of approving a lease-back contract where that price will be decided. The lease revenue notes represent a $10.7 million obligation. It will supply the district with $10 million, which will cover about 4 months of construction, long enough to enable the district to sell the general obligation bonds that the voters approved in June. Those bonds will repay all of the money that is borrowed, the $10 million plus interest that will be paid over a 2.5-year period and other costs. There are 2 points on this slide I want to point out. There's a trade-off between the interest rate and the actual costs. So in this case, the district is avoiding a $50,000 cost in getting the loan. So what we're listing as $234,000 will be $180,000, and in return, the provider of the funds is going to have a slightly higher interest rate. At the end of the day, we think that this is a fair and reasonable deal for the district. So the interest rate will be locked on or about August 24th, and the actual sizing will be known. The actual sizing based on the proposal we have is about $10,715,000, so it's a little bit under the estimate that was contained in the information. We anticipate that the bonds will be paid in full by the general obligation bonds. Because Measure L was just recently approved, there's plenty of assessed value to issue not only money to pay off those bonds, but $37.3 million, which would presumably cover the cost of the Phase 4 project. You can see on slide 9 the estimated tax rates. This assumes all $37 million were issued on a fully amortized basis. Fully amortized is just essentially like your home loan. In this case, there would be a little bit of deferral of repayment of principal during the first year, but we believe that if you had to pay for the full project with the general obligation bonds, you could certainly do that. Backup plan, if for some reason the conflict was not able to be resolved, and we believe that based on conversations today that it would, the district has about $10.8 million in state funding that it would get as soon as the state passes its bond measure, which is expected to go to the voters in November. And the general fund would ultimately have to be used to essentially roll the financing until such time as the general obligation bonds could be issued. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the debt structure. I do want to say that the direct placement that is going to be shown to the district on August 17th it's the lowest cost of funds available. The money will be available on September 1, so you can meet your deadline for groundbreaking, and the loan can be repaid on 30 days' notice. And that is very valuable, meaning the district will not incur any interest costs beyond what is necessary to issue those general obligation bonds. So the terms are very favorable. A couple of risks. The cash flow risk, this basically means that you have $10 million to get the project started, so it's very important that the general obligation bonds are issued as quickly as possible. There's also the risk of the inability of the district to issue general obligation bonds. That risk, albeit is very low based on the conflict resolution that's in process, but it's something that needs to be pointed out. If, in fact, the district were unable to issue those general obligation bonds, it would be difficult to complete the project. Those risks actually can be offset with in the lease-back contract for the construction of the project. Construction risk, it's essentially that the cost of the project is more than the $37.3 million. That could result in reducing the project scope. But I think that there will, the actual cost of the project will be known here pretty shortly, and I believe that's going to the board on August 17th, along with the approval of the lease revenue notes. I think the key recommendation here is really with a proposed construction contract. It's understanding when funds need to be paid to the contractor, and what is the dollar amount of the contract, and making sure that there's funds not only to repay the note, but also to complete the project. Other than that, I think it's a very good loan. The district has the capability of repaying it. The loan can be paid off within 30 days, and the fact that it's a direct placement with a lender makes it cost effective and avoids a lot of the disclosure that would otherwise be required in a public offering that you'll experience when you go ahead and issue your general obligation bonds. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to acknowledge your report. Excellent.
Thank you.
Very detailed, and for just a layperson, I think it gives a lot of information, a lot of detail. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. President, board members, Madam
Sorry,
Trustee.
there's a limit. You can only go down there one time.
So
3 minutes is up.
one of the exciting parts for community members is they have an opportunity to do their civic duty if they like to do those things. A person I know, my mother, is sitting on a Citizens Independent Oversight Committee with better door structures in their buildings. And I actually have two. It's kind of fun. But tonight, we're going to explain what that is. so that we can get information out slowly for any interested parties to join the committee. It's a small committee, but there's a deadline that started, a 60-day window. So we're going to do a presentation. We're going to get some information out some other ways. So really quickly, with Proposition 39, which was passed in 2000, it changed the rules on how to do a GO bond. And in K-12s and junior college systems, a GO bond could pass with 55% vote. But in order to do that, which lowered the previous requirement, which was 67%, you had to have an accountability requirement. You had to follow those. So it all builds around the bond resolution project list, which I referred to in my previous presentation, and that governing board resolution number 151609 is the whole resolution with the project list. The district has reporting requirements. The two big ones are audits. One is about the annual independent performance, and the other one is the annual independent financial audit. So that's a crucial role that the committee will play. This is a very academic explanation of what it is. I'm putting it up there if people like to look that stuff up, but the rest of the presentation is a layperson's way of explaining all that. But really the idea is the Citizens Oversight Committee just basically make sure that we build what we say we're going to build and follow through on some good practices. This is the California Constitutional Tax Limitations section. If you really want to get into the weeds, there you go. But I'll explain it again in a moment a little bit more succinctly. So the committee has to follow the Brown Act. They have to have open public meetings. They have to be announced with a window of time, 72 hours. Minutes have to be conducted and are written down, and then they're posted on the district website. The participation, they meet quarterly, 4 times a year. They work with at least one person who's assigned from the district to play the information person. That person does not sit on the committee. And they have to issue at least one report, and that report has to be posted on the website. The membership, the requirement is a minimum of 7, but the board could extend, this board, a governing body can do that, expand it out. The Proposition 39 requirements is you have to have a business organization representative, senior, taxpayer organization, parent guardian of a district student, parent organization member, and then 2 people at large. In this community, because of its ever-growing sense of itself, it doesn't have some of these organizations, so we'll seek legal counsel on how to do that. But we'll make sure we meet the provisions. In terms of regulations, there's a lot of do's and don'ts and what the roles are. The district official, again, cannot serve on the committee, but there is one or more that will give information to the committee. Vendors, contractors, consultants, they can't be on the committee either. There's an ethics policy statement that has to be signed by members of the committee, so it is regulated by the state like the rest of us. And they have to file a FPPC Form 700 with the district, which has to do with how people conduct their business, where there's contractors, consultants, and vendors. So the process is this board, the Governing Board of Trustees, will pass the bylaws, and you can determine the number of membership. We do have to meet those requirements of the 7. Myself or a designee will review the applicants who are interested. Recommendations will go forward to the board, and ultimately the board will determine who is on the committee, and there will be a resolution that appoints them formally. Additional considerations, the bylaws can establish the manner in which the information is posted to public review and the timing of the annual report. But once the committee is established and bonds are sold, then really the committee determines its meeting schedule. And at the beginning, the superintendent appoints the chair, but they can identify a process to make that person as they're moving forward. Okay, so the timing on this, the election results, we have 28 days from the election passage to certify Measure L. We certified it last board meeting. Once that vote is recorded in the board meeting minutes, which was tonight, so I was wrong 2 weeks ago when I thought the clock started 2 weeks ago, the 60-day clock starts tonight. We have until October 2nd to appoint the members. We still have a lot of work to do, a lot of communication, and the applications ultimately to gather. But October 2nd is where the 60-day window closes. So the duty of the board and the superintendent, this is really important because there's a gap a separation between duties. And the ultimate decider in this district is the Board of Trustees that I'm presenting to right now. So the committee has no jurisdiction on construction contracts, change orders, construction funds, legal matters, construction plans and schedules, deferred maintenance plans, or the sale of bonds. The committee's role is to provide oversight for the voter-approved projects. That's in the resolution that you can link up to in the earlier part of this presentation. The committee is not responsible for projects financed through other funds, or establishing priorities, or selecting professional service firms, or approval of designs, or selection of the audit firm, or the budget committee, or publicizing the activities of the committee, or amending the bylaws of the committee, or appointing or reappointing qualified applicants. All of that falls in the hands of the responsible party, the decider, the Board of Trustees of this district. So the authorized committee activities, they are these four. They review and receive copies of the district's independent performance audit and independent financial audit. They can inspect school facilities and the grounds where the projects are occurring. They can review copies of deferred maintenance plans and proposals of the district, and they can review the district's efforts to try to stretch the money we have as much as possible. So the next steps, an application process is being created. Ultimately, a form will go onto the district website for where the Measure L information is. We're working on an article to be published in the Mountain House Matters. So if interested parties can participate, and then ultimately we'll put it out through our normal channels, Facebook, newsletters, and our district app. So with that said, we started a 60-day window tonight. We have lots of work to do, but the Citizens Oversight Committee is an important part of the passage of Measure L. Thank you.
So quick question, Dr. Nicholas. You said that the board sets the bylaws. So if our board here decided, okay, we're going to establish this committee of 7 people, can that be changed if down the line we figure out for some strange reason that, oh, maybe we need 9 people?
I see it working similarly to the Facilities Use Subcommittee.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get, base bylaws together, pass them, and then work will be done.
So it's more of a living document?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nicholas.
And then item C is the groundbreaking ceremony date.
So the fun part is we very rapidly are going to see large Tonka toys showing up. We were working on a window with the people who plan these kind of things between August 31st and September 2nd to try to get as many people participating as possible. So we wanted to present that to the board and hopefully get everybody to be able to come or come up with some plan where we could.
Do you want to coordinate through email, or is that the best way?
Yeah.
Or do you want a date today?
The sooner the better, to be honest, but we can coordinate through email through Noel. That's easy to do. We just simply want to put it out there that there's going to be a ceremony. It'll be in that little window of time, and we want to get as many people there as possible and work with people's calendars.
What's that window again?
August 31 through September 2nd.
So Wednesday,
that is
Wednesday through Friday?
Yeah.
And then there's a 3-day weekend, and I believe they are going to town with lime treatments and soils and trucks and stuff like that. So the
Do one of those days not work for any of you?
Fridays are not good for me. Yeah.
I'm still looking.
And I don't see anything that would conflict on my calendar, and if there is, I will skip whatever it is and be there.
I want to be there for a change. I've missed all the others.
I have, on the 1st, I have a CSBA Finance Committee meeting at 4 o'clock. Actually, it's phone conference I look at, so it's only like an hour.
The 1st doesn't work for me, but the 31st and the 2nd.
31st is okay for me.
It's not great for me. 2nd, in the afternoon, even though I said Fridays aren't good, Friday mornings aren't good. But I could be here later in the day.
Friday afternoon looks okay for me.
That's great. I get to be over the hill early on a Friday afternoon.
About that Friday the 2nd? Check with Esquire.
About Wes here. What?
I was just going to say that there will be work going on that whole week. They're going to mobilize and stuff starting that Monday, if all goes well at the next board meeting. And so just be aware if people call and say, hey, I thought the groundbreaking was going to happen. We're going to have a couple days ahead of the groundbreaking.
We want trucks.
So there may be some actual ground broken before the groundbreaking,
Before the official event, maybe.
like a soft opening, right?
Okay. Anything else on that? That's it. Okay. Calendar. Thursday, August 4th is the annual new hire luncheon. Tuesday and Wednesday, August 8th and 9th, professional development days at the high school. Thursday, August 11th, first instructional day. Yay. Wednesday, August 17th, next regular board meeting, and Tuesday, the 13th of September is the next facilities use committee. And did you have anything further?
Yeah, there's a couple of other opportunities if you wanted to come see our professional development system in action on the August 22nd and 23rd 8th grade Canvas training and math RCD 2.0 is going on the 25th and 26th for 7th grade, same topics, Canvas and math RCD. On the 29th and 30th for 6th grade, Canvas training and math RCD. And the lights went out. And, oh man. And on August 24th, 9th through 12th grade, New Hire Academy, which will be in the boardroom here from 8 o'clock to 3:25.
So were we being so still up here that the lights thought we left? And I would remind the board that the information that Dr. Nicholas just gave us was included in an email we received earlier today.
I'm going to make as many of those as I can. Anything further from the board? In a moment, we're going to adjourn to closed session. We're going to be discussing item A is public employee discipline dismissal, release complaint. Item B, public employee appointment, employment, evaluation superintendent. Item C, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, 1 case. Item D, conference with legal counsel, 1 pending litigation case. Item E, conference with real property negotiators. That's it.
I'll move to adjourn to closed session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with 1 absent. We're now in closed session.